have. And for those that don't know, we're in the middle of a series talking about feelings, different things that we feel at different times. And tonight I've got the topic of anger. And I don't know about you, but I'm somewhat of an expert in anger. I've touched on anger probably as many times as anybody else I know in this room. So I'm not going to tell you all of my angry stories, and I'm not going to get someone up here to tell how angry they get when something goes wrong. Well, you know, what I really want to do is I want to teach you a little bit tonight about anger, where it comes from, and I want to talk to you about how to manage it and how to let it live, like not live in your life, but how to get through it when it comes around from your life. And you know, anger says this, and I want you just to follow me for a minute. This is what anger says. Anger says, you owe me. You owe me something. When we get angry, the basic concept of why we get angry is because we didn't get our own way. Now, that also includes when we deserve something. Like we might have deserved it, but we still didn't get it, so we didn't get our own way, and then anger starts to rise up on the inside. Now, let me just give you an illustration for this. Imagine you're at a job, right? For young people, I'll give you one in a minute. But for those that are outside of school, imagine you're at a job and you're looking for that promotion. And you put the time in for that promotion, you put the extra hours in for that promotion, you do all that needs to be done around getting that promotion. You even stay late, get there early, cross all the T's, dot all the I's, and you know this promotion's coming up, and you've done everything that you know to do, which is more than enough to get the promotion, and then all of a sudden, your boss just announces that someone else is getting that promotion. Now, all of a sudden, you've got something that starts to twist a little bit on the inside. It's called anger. That's the feeling of anger. And what does anger say? It says, you owe me. In other words, what it's saying is, hey, I've done all this hard work, and I think that the boss owes it to me to give me the promotion. But anger also says, we didn't get what we wanted. What did we want? We wanted the promotion, but we didn't get it. So therefore, anger rises up, even if we deserved it, even if it was really should have been ours anyway, makes no difference. Anger still starts to rise up. Now, let me give you a more simple one, because I'm a fairly simple guy, and this one I have experience in. Your wife or your mum cleans the floor in your house. The floor is spotless. She has washed it, she has vacuumed it, she has mopped it, she has cleaned every bit of dirt off the floor when you walk into the house, and it is just perfect. And then dad, could be one of the kids, but normally dad, walks into that area and all of a sudden puts mud right through the middle of the clean floor. Now, mum is starting to get that little feeling that we're talking about today called anger. But what does anger say? Anger says, you owe me. In other words, this is the first thing I hear, and I'm breaking it down because this will make sense just in a little while. I break it down. She says, I've just spent 2 hours cleaning that floor. You owe me. Doesn't say it like that. And she says, you go and get the mop, and you go and clean it up, and you make sure it's as spotless as it was when I did it. In other words, I owe her to fix up the mess because she didn't get what she wanted. You say, gee, that's a little bit harsh. What did she want? She just wanted the clean floor. So anger says, you owe me. And anger says, I'm not getting what I want. These are the basic feelings that make anger rise up on the inside of us. Now listen, it can happen as young as one. It can pretty well happen from, 6 months old. But let's just start with a couple of kids that are maybe 3 and 4. Say they're the grandkids or they're your own kids. They understand it. One of them, the younger ones, got a toy car. He's driving with his toy car. He's making tracks. He's playing with it. He's as happy as Larry. All of a sudden, the older brother comes and takes that toy, in this case it's the toy car, off the younger brother. Now at 3 years old. There's no training for this. They didn't have to listen to any messages. They didn't have to learn what anger was. They didn't have to go to school to realize this was one of the basic emotions of human life. All of a sudden, he is furious. And this is what you hear. He took my toy. I had that toy first. It was mine. He's got to give it back. Mum, make him give the toy back. That, my friend, if there's anyone that's 3 years old listening to me, is called anger. It's being stirred up on the inside of you. And why? Because your older brother owes it to you to give it back. Why is he angry? Because he didn't get what he wanted. What did he want? Just wanted to play with the toy. But it all goes back to these things, including whether he deserved to have the toy or not. The feeling of anger was still there. Now listen, one more just for the road. Just so you really get this, and then I'm going to move on to how it's going to help us today. One of the most angriest sports people I've ever seen on television used to play tennis. Not going to tell you his name. If you don't know his name, he's just a very angry tennis player. But you got to imagine that anger comes even when you don't expect it, even when you're playing sport, even when things are happening that are, in or out of your control. He's playing, he serves, the guy hits it back, he hits it back, the guy hits it back, it's match point. Whoever gets his point is going to win. The ball comes back, he hits it back, the other guy hits it back to him, and he slams it, and as he slams it, it goes right down to the back corner, but it's just outside of the line. The umpire goes, out, and the guy grabs the tennis racket. He smashes the tennis racket on the ground. He's abusing the umpire. He's yelling at the other guy. He's doing whatever to the crowd. He is just ticked off. Why? Because he wanted the ball to go inside the line. He didn't get what he wanted. And what I'm trying to show you is it's not about whether you're 3 or whether it's a job promotion or whether it's mum cleaning the floor or whether it's kids fighting over the toys. Anger comes from the basic bottom line. You didn't get what you wanted, even if you deserve to have it. And it says, now someone owes me because this has happened. You got to hear the stories, but let me make it real for you right now. What happens when it gets to a serious level? What happens when a father who has been married to his wife for 10 years, he's got 3 kids, and then the dad just decides to walk out and move in with his secretary? All of a sudden, these emotions start to come in a lot heavier way than just illustrating the basics of where it comes from. And when the husband does that, the wife, and so she should be. No one's saying she shouldn't be. You've got to hear this. I'm not here to say don't get angry. You can't not get angry. She is going to get angry when the husband leaves, and anger is going to be something that's going to hit our lives all the time. And I'm trying to make the point, anger is going to cross your path all the time because you won't always get what you want. And the wife is now angry that the husband is left, and so she should be. The kids are angry that their dad's walked off, and now when they go home, just mum's there, and it's dad's off with the secretary. And you know what? The wife says to the husband, "You owe me to stay. I've given you 10 years of my life. I've given you 3 awesome kids. You owe me to leave that secretary and stay with me." There's an owing that's there. She's upset because, you know what? Here's the bottom line. She didn't get what she wanted. Now, it sounds harsh, but you got to understand this is how it comes through. She didn't get what she wanted. What did she want? She just wanted the husband to stay. She just wanted him to stay and be a happy family and look after the kids and love her to death. But she didn't get that, so anger now starts to creep in. She's angry, the kids are angry. And then Dad pulls the kids aside on his Saturday when he gets them, and he goes, you know what? This is what happens in the world all the time. Your mum's a real, piece of work. I know I ran off with my secretary, but you know why I did it? It was because of blah, 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 blah. Now the kids are angry with mum and dad. They're angry with dad because he left. Now they're angry with mum because of what dad said about mum. And then, we wonder why that there are young people walking around just full of anger from something that happened completely out of their control. She has been ripped off. The kids have been ripped off. And someone owes them something. And now the kids are angry with everyone. The mum's angry with everyone. And here's the bottom line, because I really want to, get to the meat of this thing. Show me an angry person, and I'll show you a hurt person. Because people that suffer and are constantly angry is someone that's been hurt, and they may not put the two together, and they may not have put it together that they didn't get what they wanted, and that's why they're angry, and they're thinking that somebody owes them, but they're hurt. Deep down, they're hurt. And as a church, whether you're understanding the feeling of anger for yourself, for your own life, for your own family, or whether you're just trying to understand it, that when someone walks in the door and they're a little bit snappy or they're a little bit angry, that there's something going on beyond what you see. And it's always somebody owes me something. And the least they owe you an apology for doing it. At least say, sorry, you owe me an apology for blah, blah, blah. Angry people verbalize the following. And this is how you start to know that they're angry without seeing a fit of rage and a tennis racket being smashed. This is what they say. Angry people say things like, you took my toy. You took my reputation. You stole my family. You stole the best years of my life. You stole my first marriage. You robbed me of my teenage years. You robbed me of my purity. You owe me, talking to the boss, a raise. You owe me the opportunity to at least try and work it out. You owe me a second chance. You owe me love. You owe me affection. And when you start to hear took, stole, robbed, and you owe, there's something bubbling up underneath that we need to understand and really work out how to get through it. Here's the point. The root of all anger is the perception that someone has taken something from you. Somebody owes you, and that's where anger comes from. I want to talk about the answer to anger, but rather than just say, hey, here's the answer, I want to explain to you why the answer is so important. The answer is so important because without the answer, you'll never get through this. And when things hit you from the side and things hit you from the left and things happen at work and things happen in your family and things happen in your future family and things happen in the church and things happen in the government and things just happen in life, and all of a sudden you start to feel that anger coming up, you've got to realize how to identify it and how to work through it. Now the answer is quite simply forgiveness. And we could just stop it right there and say, music, band, that's it, done, it's forgiveness. Just forgive everybody and you'll move on. The problem is that we think that by forgiving someone is just too simple, and we don't want to forgive them because they've hurt us. And what I want to help you understand today is that forgiving people that have hurt you or ripped you off is not for their benefit. It's for your benefit. And when you start to forgive people that have hurt you, it's not for them. It's not for them. It is for you. And you know, it's easy to believe that the answer for anger is payback. And I want to go down the line and be the devil's advocate for just a moment. Because if somebody owes you something, what should someone do if they owe you something? Pay you back. I owe you something. We want to settle this. You pay it back. So we naturally go down this line of thought that when someone has ripped us off or robbed us or taken something from us, they now owe us. And the only way to settle the debt is to make sure that they pay us back, or we just call it payback. They don't have to do it. As long as we can settle the debt by paying them back, then somehow we feel it's going to make it okay in our life. And you know what? We think like that because if it was any other way, it'd be unfair. Like if we don't pay them back, what's going to stop them from doing it to the next person? What's going to stop them, running off from their next wife? Someone's got to teach them a lesson, right? If someone's stolen something from you and it's made you angry, we should pay them back because otherwise they'll steal from somebody else. Like, you can follow my thought here, right? I mean, how many of us think that's fair enough? Because most of us do think it's fair enough. That's the problem. That's how we justify hanging on to the anger instead of forgiving the person, because then we've got to hang on to it and we haven't let it go, and we're the ones that get caught in it. A debt has to be paid back. But let me tell you something about this. When you say, I'm waiting to pay them back, what you're really doing is justifying why you're still angry. If they got paid back, the score would be settled and I wouldn't be angry anymore. That's how we think it through our brain. But it's not how it works in reality. And here's the problem, especially when you become an adult. A lot of the debts we have, you can't pay back. Like, how do you pay back a dad when you're 40, he's 60, he wasn't there when you were 12, it's 28 years ago when he wasn't the father that he should have been to you, but now he's old, you're old, the debt's 28 years old, and there's no possible way of being able to pay it back. How do you pay back someone when your innocence has been taken? You've lost your innocence and now you're going to pay them back? There is no payback to compensate for losing your innocence, what somebody else has done. How do you pay back someone that's left the marriage, now they're remarried to a new wife with 3 new kids, and 25 years have passed from when you got angry with what happened, but now remarried, new wife, and 3 kids. You can't pay it back. It can't be restored. It's broken, it's gone, and they've moved on, and that anger on the inside of you hasn't moved on, and there is no way of paying it back. Listen, some of us are angry and waiting to pay back people, and the people that we're angry with are dead. They're not even alive anymore. So-and-so ripped me off with this deal and did this and did that. How's he going? Oh, he died 13 years ago. And you're still angry about how you're mistreated. I didn't get the promotion and I can't believe he did that. It's ruined my life. I was having a great career. That person's long gone, doesn't even work there anymore. You can't pay it back. So we have to look at another way. We have to make sure that we cannot allow that anger to be lodged in our heart and just continually grow and grow and grow until it's basically messes up our life. The opportunity to make things right is long gone, but the anger remains. The anger even intensifies. The anger even spreads. Because you know what? When anger is lodged in your heart, it's not just isolated to the problem that caused it. When anger's in your heart, the anger, it's like you're a glass full of water, and when you wobble around, the water wobbles around on the inside of you, and the water that spills out off the top of the glass is like an angry person that's full of anger, and as they walk around, anger is spilling out on everybody, whether they cause the problem or not. Let me give you an example of this, and it's so clear when you hear it. The boss is a moron. He embarrasses you in workplace. The other work people laugh at you and think, oh, what a joke. And you just sit there embarrassed and horrified and anger's swelling up on the inside. Then when you get home, you bite your wife's head off. Why isn't this done? And why hasn't that been done? And why hasn't the washing been done? And you're looking for ways to vent the anger that the boss caused at work, but the one that loves you that's been at home that had nothing to do with it, they're the one that spills out on. You're going through a problem with your kids, and maybe one of your kids doesn't like you anymore, doesn't talk to you anymore, and something's gone wrong. I'm not here to talk about issues. I'm just here to say things happen and it makes you angry on the inside. And then every time you go shopping and want to buy a new shirt or a new pair of jeans, you're just an angry person, and it's like, oh, this doesn't fit. Can't you find something better? The poor shop assistant who's got nothing to do with your kids. Nothing to do with your kids. She's the one getting her head bitten off because she can't find the right size shirt straight away. Instantly, on the spot. I'll go to the shop down the road if you're not good enough at your job. This anger, it's not angry at the person getting that shirt. There's anger lodged in your heart, and it's just sloshing around and coming out everywhere. Interest rates go up 11 times in a row. And you go through KFC drive-through, and the nuggets are now $12. And the poor chick handing you the nuggets gets told, go and tell Mr. Colonel that he's ripping everybody off, and he's doing this and he's doing that, and we can't even afford to come in. In fact, I'm never coming back to KFC again. The poor chick's there at her first job. She's just trying to earn some pocket money, and you ripped her head off over $12 nuggets because your angry interest went up, and now you've got pressure on your home. Maybe there's more than pressure. Maybe you lost your home because of it. Maybe you're out of home because of it. You've got to understand how deep this thing goes. And I'm not saying it's your fault you're angry. I'm saying you've got to learn how to deal with it, or it's going to just spill out over everybody. And we know it does, because you're listening to me and you're going, yeah, I know, seen that, done that, seen that, been there. I know that girl at KFC. Now she doesn't have a job because you ripped her head off because nuggets are, Some of these issues, they spill out on everyone. And what's the trigger? The trigger is when you feel somebody owes you something. The Colonel owes me to only have nuggets at $6. How dare he put them to $12? The Colonel owes me. Anger comes out. Can you see how this whole thing starts to collide? This is what you know, you're now called an angry person. Because anger is not reserved to an isolated problem. Your anger slips out every time you don't get what you want. That's an angry person. Now listen, if you don't know whether you're an angry person or not, here's just a question for you. It's something to do, okay? Just think. Ask someone in your family, husband or wife, and say, excuse me, listen to Mark's preach. do you think I'm an angry person? Now, if they hesitate, you got your answer. You got it. Like, just angry. Like, you're just an angry person. Like, there's nothing going on. You're just an angry person. You're always angry. Because it's just lodged in there. Ask someone whether you're an angry person, and if they tell you, yes, you are, and then you get angry about it, you got your answer. Some of you won't even ask. Why ask when you know what the answer's coming? And see, what's happened is that we're now what's known as an angry person, and it spills out everywhere. How did it get here? How did we end up in this place? You know, have you ever had your head bitten off by someone and you know you didn't do anything wrong? And you're just like, what? Why? Here's the more important question. Have you ever bitten someone's head off and they didn't deserve it, but it was something else on the inside that caused you to do it? You know, every angry person that's known as an angry person has got anger lodged in their heart. Someone has hurt you and you feel that someone somewhere, even if it's life, has treated you unfair and somebody owes you. And you haven't been able to let go of it. Listen, it might be something so silly or so small that you can't even remember what it is. So insignificant that you don't even know what the problem is. But maybe, 30 years ago, maybe when you were growing up, maybe your last job, maybe, 4 years ago when something happened and you've forgotten about it, but anger's lodged in your heart and you don't even know why. Because a lot of people that are angry, I sit down and I talk with them and go, man, you're angry. And they go, yeah. I said, why are you so angry? And they go, I don't know. I just hate the whole world. I just hate everybody. I'm just angry. I'm angry all the time. And then you dig a little bit deeper, and you can do this on yourself. Dig a little bit deeper to try and find out what's been lodged in your heart. What's happened to allow that to come through? On the other hand, as we start to wrap this thing up, you may know where your anger comes from. You've got a story to tell, and when you tell people your story, they can understand why you're angry. You sit down with them and go, well, my dad did this, and the priest did this, and so-and-so did this, and my school teacher did this, and my boss did this, and the bank manager did this, and this happened in the police force, the ambulance, whatever it might be. You've got a story of where someone's ripped you off, and this story's become all you obsess about. And it's making you angry. But listen, if I heard your story, and many of us hear stories of people that are really angry, we actually want to get angry with them and say, yeah, you're right. How dare they do that? How dare they put the interest up? How dare they sack you? How dare this happen? How dare your dad do that? How dare she leave? How dare he have an affair on you? We can all sympathize with the answer and say, yeah, we're angry with you as well. But let me tell you something, doesn't help. Sympathizing with someone's story of why they're angry doesn't help them. In fact, it gives them the power to hang on to their anger. In fact, it justifies why they're angry. It's an excuse to stay angry. Instead of going to the right answer, which is, you've got to let it go. You've got to forgive them. Man, I know that your teacher did the wrong thing. Man, I know your husband walking out did the wrong thing. You don't deserve this. But for your sake, you've got to let it go. You've got to forgive him. You've got to move on. Because otherwise you're going to become one of these angry people walking around like a big glass full of water spilling out in the poor KFC chick. You've got to let it go. You can't have the excuse. Now, I understand if anyone was raised the way that you were raised, faced the hardships you faced, lost your house because of finance, lived with the rejection that you lived with, was abandoned like you were, went through what you went through. I understand you've got every reason to be angry. But you can't stay there. You just can't stay there. You see, anger's not one of these emotions that you can avoid. It's one of these emotions that come whether you deserve it or whether you don't. But you've still got to get through that feeling, and you've still got to know how to come out the other side before it destroys you as a person. Here's a question that every man, every angry man and every angry woman needs to consider. How long are you going to allow people that you don't even like, people that may not even be alive anymore, control your current life now? How long? You're gonna pick a date on the calendar and say, yep, on the 24th of April in 2025, that's when I let go of what my husband did or what my wife did. That's when I'm going to let go of what my boss did. Now you might say, oh, Mark, that's silly. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. No, I'll tell you what's stupid, and I'll tell you what's silly, and I'll tell you what's ridiculous. You hanging on to something about someone that has nothing to do with your current life now, and you're destroying your current relationships in your current family, in your current church, and in your current town. That's what's stupid. You know, I got a stack of stories, and I'm not going to bore you with them. I've lived with anger. I've had people rip me off. I've felt that God hasn't come through on some of my dreams. I've seen people leave the church and blame me for their kids, their marriages, about everything. I've lost money in investments. I've lost money I've lent to people. I let a guy stay in my caravan one night in my house because he had nowhere to stay. I wake up the next morning, he's gone, and so are all the kids' bikes. Just let it go. Just let it go. We have to cancel the debt, not for their benefit, but for ours. We cannot drink the poison and expect them to die. Now, I know that someone has to pay, but most of the time, it's your family and friends and the ones that haven't hurt you that are paying the price. Bang. Mic drop. As the band comes, there is hope. You know, have you ever seen anyone that looks so perfect and nice, well together, just cool, calm, collective? They just look like the whole world is just beautiful to them, only to hear their story of what happened. You know, one of the greatest people I've ever seen with one of the worst stories I've ever heard of is Christine Kane. You think she's an international speaker and the whole world's at her feet, but when you hear her story, it's horrendous. You know, I've seen people that, you know, have had a bit of a bad life from war, and they've got a limb missing or a leg missing or something's missing, and they're out there in their wheelchair, and they're you know, winning in the Olympics, or they're being a motivational speaker and telling people how to get through life, and they've lost an arm or a leg or something, and you just say, wow, how did this happen? I'll tell you how it happened. Your story can either be an excuse for why you stay angry and destroy your family, or your story can be an inspiration of how you overcome. And now you can help everybody else. Not just with anger, just help everybody else in general. Your story can go two ways. An excuse for who you are, or a testimony of God's grace. Here it is at the end. And I kid you not, this is my number one prayer that I have prayed more times in the last 30 years than any other prayer. And this is the prayer. God, help me to forgive everybody of everything. That's my number one prayer. I've said that prayer more time than any other prayer. God, help me forgive everybody of everything. Because I know that if I don't, I'm going to get stuck. I know I'm going to get something lodged in my heart. I know I'm going to become useless. I know I can never preach again. I know I'm going to destroy my family. I know my kids are going to end up hating me. God, help me forgive everybody of everything is my number one prayer. And as we close today, most times when we close this meeting, we say, God, forgive me of everything I've done. I want to be a Christian. God, forgive me of everything I've done. Tonight, let's change that. And as we go into worship, let our prayer be, God, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to help me to forgive everybody else. Thanks, God.